Well, behold, it is the one, the only, the unavoidable.
Yeah, well, that might be true.
I've got more. I'm not even started here. Since we're getting rolling on episode 2044, since you failed to label the last staff meeting.
Did I really?
Okay, this is really episode 2045, but I'll call it episode 2045.
Are you picking on me again?
Just a little bit. Sorry, Kurt. It's early in the
I
morning.
did.
My coffee is
2044.
And it's 2045 now. Anyway, since we're talking about the episode,
Fixed.
introducing the wonderful Kurt Doolittle in his glorious and disagreeable self.
That's true.
Right? I want you all to hit that button there, that button there, and that button there, and get notified and know what's going on, because we are solving problems. Make comments below how wonderful this experience is for you, because we want to hear about it.
This is the Brad I love.
And Kurt, today is a good day.
It is.
I will tell you why. I woke up exceptionally late. And I was like, it was very late. And
That's not normal for you.
I wanted you to know this. I accomplished my objective online. I saw all my patients in less than 2 hours. It was just knock them out of the park.
Were they happy patients?
Oh, yeah. I'm getting better at this, how odd that may seem. It is. I get better and better because I pay very close attention to how I perform in the circus. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like I get better at it. And it's interesting to me that I can get better at it because I'm pretty good.
Why? I was going to
Very
say.
good. I'm very good at what I do. And it's like, but it was amazing. It's just amazing.
That's not surprising to me. Why would it be surprising to you?
It's not really surprising. It just buoys me a bit.
I was going to say it makes you happy.
I had a hard week, man. I was getting roughed up all week. And now I'm like, here we are. We're settling down. We're going to talk about lying. And I love it, man. We're solving problems. We're making great strides, I think.
We've made, I think, it's a lot of the time we make when we work on this stuff, we make incremental improvements that aren't so incremental. They're, we discover a small thing. And it turns out that, wow, you open that box and there's a lot of stuff under there.
It's fascinating. It's like some kind of strange laboratory. It is. It's like we're doing it. It's social science.
It is. It's basic research, and it's the thing is that you do have to teach people a little bit what science means, because they're very stuck on mathematics and prediction, whatever. But you're really talking about accurate description. And you have to know. And we're doing it as construction from first principles. So the thing is, it's an old argument in economic epistemology that if you can't construct it from rational incentives, it can't be true. Now, there's a conflict here, which is in economics. I just want to, this is profound, so I want to see if I can tie this together without failing. I might fail.
Okay.
But if you don't understand, in mathematics, we have computational possibility,
right,
and mathematical reducibility. In other words, what is imaginable is higher than what is computationally producible. And what is computationally producible is higher than what is mathematically reducible.
Which talks about mathiness.
Well, it's the problem of mathiness. Now let's take let's try that again. I'm going to repeat it in just case.
Because it is profound.
It's profound. What is imaginable may not be computationally possible. In other words, you may be able to imagine something, but there's no way to produce a sequence of actions in which to bring it about.
Right.
The same thing happens in mathematics. It may be imaginable, but there's no computational way to construct it. There is also the problem from computational possibility to mathematical reducibility. In other words, can it be reduced to a mathematical expression, which is a general statement of scale independence and invariance? The answer is, the problem is that each one of these things is less. The imagination is big, possibility is less, and reducibility is less so, right? These are smaller sets, right?
But yeah, it's funny because it reminds me of inflation to deflation.
It is, right? I mean,
That's all it is. It's like mathematical fictional to what is.
But the problem is there are some things that are mathematically reducible. That's because they're invariant.
Okay.
Right? There are things that are computationally reducible because they're computationally invariant, but they're not mathematically invariant. In other words, they can't be reduced to a general description. In other words, everything can't be predicted evenly on a trajectory. So, and then there's stuff that's imaginable, like unicorns, you know, that it may be possible to for us to operationally get there, but there's no way to get there at present, right? There's, and let's, you know, I mean, pick something that's, you know, I'm not going to use faster than the speed of light. I'm going to use a human that's, you know, 100 feet tall. Well, you know, your legs are big, right? That won't work because your legs are right.
Not on this planet.
That's imaginable, but it's not operationally constructible, right? Well, at least on Earth, right? I mean,
right.
Gravity being the bitch that it is.
It's a bitch, man.
But you may be able to describe it mathematically, right? Right. But you may be able to imagine it, but you can't operationalize it. So the same thing happened in economics, and this is for the libertarians who get confused by libertarian bullshit, sophistry, and bullshit, right?
Wait, that's for you watching the show. Stop
well, it's for everyone, but libertarians got halfway there. So the problem with we call this praxeology. Praxeology is the logic of construction.
Right.
In other words, it's basically constructive mathematics or computability applied to human action. So what is computable? In other words, the combination of human actions that can be brought about may not be mathematically reducible. That's a stupid question. It's fucking not mathematically reducible. Okay, let me help you. All right, it may. So you can't. So what happens is you can make a falsificationary statement with computational reducibility. In other words, you can say, I can construct this by operational means, by a sequence of existentially possible incentives and human actions. But it's not mathematically reducible because the categories are inconstant, whereas mathematics depends on relatively constant categories, or at least categories. So mathematics is via positiva predictable, and evolutionary computation is via negativa computable. Okay. Does this make so? Mathematics is, we understand it, the art of writing proofs. We think of it, we think of science as justificationary. It's not. If you could write a mathematical proof for it, you've simply said it's possible. Once you know the first principles of the physical world, because they're regular, you should be able to define operational constructibility. We're not quite there yet at any level of precision below what you and I use here as the computation of stable relations. Human actions, in other words, recombinatorics, are not mathematically reducible. They are, however, falsifiable. In other words, they're not justifiable, they're falsifiable.
Say that again, please. I can't write fast enough. I'm sorry, you're being too brilliant today, sir.
I just, it's why I say economists are the one that figured out what's wrong, but they're too stupid to fix it. Mathematics couldn't figure out what was wrong, and when they did discover what was wrong, they were too stupid to understand it. And it just kills me. And computer scientists like stumble on the answer to this question. They're like, well, the economists are too stupid to understand it, and the mathematicians are too stuck and stupid to understand it. And so we're stuck because everybody believes the justificationists, and nobody, because despite that they're wrong, the mathematicians, despite that they're wrong and about what science means, and nobody believes the economists about what science means because they're only half right. And it's this clown world problem of epistemology that it absolutely fucking floors me. And of course, I'm skilled in all three of these disciplines. Right. So to me, it's just like, well, I mean, I'm skilled in logic, or logic of language. I'm skilled in economics. I have a more than trivial understanding of the foundations of mathematics and computation. And so I sort of, and of course I have enough knowledge of physics to be dangerous. So the problem here is that you need those competing concepts to be able to understand what science means. How can you testify to the imaginable, the computable, and the reducible? You have to know which thing matters. So it might matter in the physical sciences to create a prediction, but it only matters in economics to create a construction.
That's correct.
And for imaginable, it only can it just require. This is going to be very hard to understand. It's only got to be meaningful, which means that the relations, the conceptual relations, which are organized by our human minds into objects, backgrounds, and episodes, a couple of other things, it has to only be associable. So associable, constructible, reducible. And so you have this epistemological problem that, there's this whole academy out there teaching absolute fucking nonsense to multiple different disciplines. And it's no wonder that the idea of science can't be reduced to what it is, what we do, which is it's fucking testimony. But you have to be able to testify about which method you're using to deal with which kind of question. Are you dealing with something that's associable, which is basically set logic, something that's constructible, which is operational logic, or something that's mathematically reducible, which is the law of measurements, or what we consider mathematics? Which of those things are you trying to do? Well, because one of them, the first one is absolutely it's justifiable and falsifiable why you get there, but it isn't true. The second one is constructible only if it's true, but it's only falsifiable. And the third one is only justification. It's not necessarily true.
Mathematical.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting here laughing, and I see this all the time when I watch my own videos, is that I'm speaking in a vernacular voice.
Yes.
Right. But so people have no idea that if I sat here like some prof and I spoke in deliberate terms, and I was trying to convey to you this deep meaning with specially constructed accent and prose, how you would be, and I was drawing it on a chalkboard, you would be able to understand that what I'm saying is deeply meaningful, like any other deep meaningful thing, like evolution itself or the foundations of mathematics. But because I find this so ironic and humorous, right, that we're so fucking stupid despite the stuff being right in front of us, that I just can't believe it. So to me, it's comical. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's just ordinary human foibles preventing us from seeing whatever. Now, we could go back to theology, and some of that stuff is just freaking hysterical. Right?
Why so?
Well, I mean, angels on the head of the pin is exactly.
Oh, yes. No, I understand you. No, it is good. It doesn't matter how many chalkboards you present it on. Like,
Ridiculous.
and what kind of gold leafy
Yes.
trim there is
Yeah,
around
there's
it.
just
No
that.
difference.
Well, I mean, there's stuff in philosophy, and there's stuff in the philosophy even of science.
Yes,
And there's
yes.
stuff in science and mathematics, and there's stuff in physics, and it's all equally ridiculous. It's right. I mean, if you don't know how to get to truth from testimony from what you're talking about, you just use what's the best tools available. And it's like all these ass clowns running around in different factions with their ass count.
We understand one another.
Right?
I'm observing this, okay? Now, without mentioning anything, I just observe them playing their games.
Yes.
And it's just they're playing games. And it's like, I regard it as it's feminine in its function. It's feminine in its function because it's like consumptive, because it's like it's not
It's
capitalizing.
attention seeking.
That's all. And it's playing games and harlequins, right?
Yes. And it's
Courtesans.
you can get, one of the things you've helped me with, as well as my therapist, is my getting over my anger at people when really they're just
clowns. They're clowning around.
And so and the problem with being an autistic is you're not fooled by the clowning, because you don't care about the attention or the confirmation or the social approval or the social proof, right? You just don't care. And so you're not swayed by this stuff, but then there's nowhere to go for the answer, right? Now, you can be unswayed, but the actual answer doesn't exist. And you can see where it tried to come together in the early 20th century. You can see where the intuitionists, the praxeologists, the operationalists all came together, and they just tried. You saw Popper come out of that. I can't figure out if he made it better or worse. And all this verbal credentialed nonsense came up from what had been applied science. In other words, solving real problems.
Yes.
Right? Became solving non-problems, imaginary problems.
Imagining imaginary answers to imaginary problems.
And so that's where it went out. And because credentialism favors that, right? Whereas meritocracy suppresses it, credentialism favored it. And so we get to your favorite subject, which is one of your many favorite subjects, which is the problem of credentialism, and which you've again got me on board with. That you realize that we've just been manufacturing what I don't like the word fake elites or overproduction elites, but we've been producing credentialed fake elites. We've replaced
wait.
meritocratic elites with credentialed elites.
There you go. That's it. And I was like, think about this, because I believe that Mr. Turchin is absolutely spot on the money.
Oh, he's right on.
But the issue is that these fake elites, these credentialed elites, right? We'll call them credentialed elites as opposed to meritocratic elites.
Yes.
They truly believe themselves to be elites. And the public,
they're clowns.
We're not in argument here, sir. It's fascinating function because there are too many of them, and they are vying for position in the empire. Cathedral.
A government job is a pretty protected job.
Unfortunately so.
Right. And so, if you can work your way into escaping the market, the idea is, what's the purpose of an education? To escape the market. It used to be, right?
That's awful, man.
Right. Well, it used to be said, what's the purpose of education? To escape the problem of working. What they meant was physical work.
Right.
Right. But what it's become is escaping the market for creating value.
Oh my.
And so it's escalated up this chain. And so, you can't go to criminals and say, by the way, what you do is a crime. What I've been doing this forever, and it seems,
it's working out so far.
It worked out so far. You can't go to the academy the media, the financial sector, the state, this whole cathedral complex, and say, actually, you're credentialists and you're destroying value instead of creating it.
Okay, so I want to discuss this briefly. Thinking about the federal jobs being so well protected, the president could fire them all right now.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't actually know that until
Well, I
it
mean,
came out.
it's just, it's like, it's not legal, but he could stop paying them right now. And then, you know, and they can go to take it to court. And right,
We can argue out in court whether they're doing their job or not, right?
It's right, but it's like he could stop paying them. He could order the Treasury to stop cutting checks.
Yes.
And it's like, and then fight it out in court, because it's just
Well, that's
how
what
they-
government shutdowns are for, is that is that the problem is what they do is they shut down things that we need to punish us. Like they
Yes.
shut down the park service, which costs nothing.
honestly
Right.
rude. It's just rude.
Let's shut down the Department of Housing, the social services nonsense. Let's shut down housing and urban development. Let's shut down the education department, and there's a couple of others. It's really centralized in some very bad places, and then shut down IRS revenue collection. Right, and just you can start playing this game all day long, and nobody will care that those those bureaucrats go away.
I think that the president who shuts the IRS down will be hailed in history for a
Well, I
long
mean, you know,
time.
the IRS needs to exist. The problem is there's a difference between being stupid and being evil. And punishing.
Wait, just for this audience, I want you to just distinguish between stupid and evil, just for the sake of the audience.
Well, there's like being stupid, being human, right? Being the victim of the system, right? Which are all things that happen to taxes, right? It's just whatever. All right. The number of people who get into trouble who are sacked with the burden of not only doing work but maintaining their own records,
Jesus,
when they're paid by the hour, that's just criminal.
it's rude.
Right?
It's so much. It's like
Their taxes don't matter. Really, we can
honestly.
take all those guys that work in the trades and stop collecting income taxes from them. They would be way better off, right? And so there would be no problem. Most of these, why do we tax fucking waitresses for fucking? I mean, that's just
that's beyond stupid.
It's
and
beyond
rude.
stupid, right? I mean,
No, it goes to evil, because it's just a matter of whipping people.
There's a reasoning behind it that was utopian, right? So I'm learning to forgive some stupid, right? Now the problem is there's evil. There's malicious and there's evil, right? I'm actually intentionally misreporting this in order to gain another 6%, right? That's when you've got money and you're playing that game, that's not cool. When you're getting into real fraud, like, you know, you're misreporting and it's affecting not only government revenues, whatever, there's a lot of stuff like that happens. The thing is, that's easy to catch, right? But, you know, start enforcing this stuff on ordinary people. I mean, look, if you want to tax people, if you just make it so ADP, or pick one of the fucking places, right? That all revenue is collected through that channel instead of directly to the person. So there's a record, right? And then just lightly tax that at a flat rate, right? That's fine. But stop making people do all these hoops, because when you call the IRS, they won't guarantee you they gave the correct advice.
No, that's the kicker. It's like, yeah, you're on your own hook, brother. It doesn't matter what we say.
Yes. So it's crazy. So you know, if anyone wants to study how Italian taxes are collected, this explains Italy. right? So I'm not going to go over there. I'm not going to go into this. But if you want to study the world's greatest clusterfuck, it's Italy. It's hysterical. I mean, most of us, not anybody who makes real money has to get a tax accountant to do their stuff.
Oh,
but in
God.
Italy, nobody can do their taxes because it's basically magic.
No, really, it's incomprehensible. It's like, okay.
Now let's go to China.
Oh,
Nobody pays tax. Like 2% of people pay taxes.
That's the right answer. That's way better of an answer than what we have.
Well, it is, except that now what do the governments do? They went to the Georgist model, which is that they basically rent territory, right? And that's how they make all their money. Well, that's not working out so good right now.
They're having a problem. But it's like when you have to guard the bank with a tank. It's like, wow.
So
Wow.
I don't want to, people are going to jump on me for that, but I'm just trying to not go into detail on it. But the idea is, yeah, governments could do the Georgist model, which is to basically treat them, the territory as their land, the government's a landlord,
Right.
and extract everything from that. It's not a bad idea. We already do it in most of America, and the people who are all afraid of Georgism don't get it. I'm like, it's not that it's a bad idea. It's that you can't get enough out of that, right, without causing externalities.
Yep.
Right. The thing is, the income tax is actually the least. It's actually the least harmful method of taxing. If you don't fuck with it, if it's just flat.
It's just, what's amazing about it is it's just how much effort the Americans go to every year to file these.
And that's the problem.
Forms.
It really needs to be flat, right? If it's a progressive flat tax, and then it has to be a mathematical rather than a stepped calculation. Then because what happens is you end up playing games with it. But the whole point is to make it frictionless. Because it's the thing that interferes. Income tax basically interferes the least with the economy, whereas value-added tax interferes the most with the economy. Right? How did I get on this fucking subject anyway?
I know. I was going to say we drifted from epistemology to praxeology to taxation.
Yeah. Okay. So you asked some interesting question, and I ran with it. So the point is, I was trying to stick back with imaginability, associability, right? Constructability and reducibility, right? In real terms, this is imagining, counting, and statistics. Really?
That was good. That was good, Kurt.
So when you're talking about epistemology, which kind of thing are you describing? The human mind, associability, the human action, constructability, or the natural world external to human action, which is reducibility?
This is quite interesting because you know what it turns into, Kurt? It turns into before,
or during, and after.
I like hanging out with you, man. It's a trip. I want everybody to know this because I had to ring Kurt because he was late for our little meeting today, and he's just extraordinarily hot today. Look at him go.
I don't know. I shouldn't be. I was like, I might not have enough juice for Dr. Brad. Like an hour ago, I was dying. You know what it is?
Thank you, man.
It's your fucking enthusiasm. That's what it is. And that I made strong coffee. But anyway, I'm still on the last few days of prednisone, which is probably helping too.
That's good.
So anyway, what I just talked about in epistemology, the profundity of that statement, no one has I mean, you'd have to be a really good philosopher to understand what I just
hang with that.
Well, to understand how, oh my God, that is. Right?
I understand. I was watching you do it. And I was like, wow, that's just so deep. And it's like, wow.
And it's in retrospect, like everything we do, it's so before, during, and after, right? I mean, I was so glad when you got there, right? Because you got there and you told, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, exactly. Because once you start doing this, everything's before, during, and after. Everything's a Markov chain, right? Every straight transitions, things that are imaginable, they're constructible, or they're reducible, which is, predictable irregularity. And so it's irregular to regular, right? So it's just so obvious. But what we're saying a lot of the time is the universe is actually obvious if you understand the basic structure of it, which is really quite simple. It's just that. And I was thinking it was something else somebody was going off onto the other day. I don't remember who it was. It was a couple of physicists talking. I'm thinking, you're stupid. I shouldn't say that. And
wait, you were thinking it, and you get to think that.
It's okay.
And you didn't say it until now. And
well, they couldn't hear me because they're on a video. I mean, again, but it's like no one will talk to me in the world because I'm such an abrasive character, because I simply point out when you say stupid things, right? And so everybody avoids me because I'm so abrasive. And I'm like, I'm a nice guy, really. Just don't say anything stupid.
It's not courtly, sir. The Harlequins are upset.
So anyway, that epistemology, that's pretty profound, but like all the epistemology we're delivering, it's pretty profound.
Yes.
But my view is that, like I said, we kind of fucked up because we screwed up.
Nope.
What?
No, it wasn't we, sir. It wasn't we.
No, humanity.
Okay, in the broadest, it's not.
Yeah, humans.
Issues. The humans.
Babbage
The humans have apparently made some errors.
Babbage was there. It was right there. It was like, hey, Babbage, if you write that down as a general theory, and then we get into the early part of the 20th century, and you have the intuitionists, the operationalists, and the praxeologists. You're like, it's right there.
So what occurred? The 20th century is the operation of the imaginary. In my opinion, is the
it's the reverbalization. So just like Descartes brings geometry back down, and he brings mathematics back to measurement and reality from a verbal system. He brings it back to a system of measurement. What happened with, especially beginning with set theory, and God forbid. Anyway, what happened is the philosophers and logicians and the mathematicians were so desperate to retain their status position that they doubled down on a falsehood. And so what we got was this brought us into the 20th century. At the same time, this shallow verbalism, this new religion called Marxism, neo-Marxism, whatever, which is a negative religion of criticism rather than a positive religion of positive construction of potential. They brought about that, and these two things worked together to overwhelm the fact that imagining that verbal sophistry and magical thinking and false promise works really well with just like theological and sophomoric philosophical discourse works. It's just pseudoscience, though. Whereas if you don't have the grounding in reality, you don't have it as the tools of what we think of as computation. In other words, engineering is applied science. Right? Computation is the equivalent of engineering, and computation is the generalization of action, the sequence of action in reality. And so you have these things are bound by reality. But what happened, Einstein participated in some of this, certainly, what's his name? Infinities.
Can't help you, brother.
Actually, and the problem is they're mostly Jewish, almost all Jewish thinkers, is that they are very enamored of their verbalism. because verbalism isn't constrained by correspondence reality. Verbalism is constrained by the cost of making the world transforming reality to between states. So it becomes very imaginary. Hayek talked about it as in history will be remembered as the new age of new mysticism. Now, he was using the term mysticism, and I would use the word sophistry and pseudoscience, because in the past it would have been mysticism, but in this age, the new mysticism consists of sophistry and pseudoscience. And these are verbal constructions. They're not empirical constructions. They're not operational constructions. They're not reducible to practice, because that survives as applied science.
I would like to reiterate that for the audience, because it's quite interesting. It's like what is imaginable and verbalizable is not necessarily operationally practical, is what Kurt said. It's
Practical mean another. Let's stick with possible. Operational possible.
It's not operationally possible.
And what's operationally possible may not be existentially practical. In other words, it just may be too expensive. But that's a difference between true and desirable, right? I mean,
right. So the Marxists are good at causing people to do things that they desire, even though they're not operationally possible.
They're not possible, and they're not practical, right? You can't bring it about, and even if you did, it wouldn't lead to ends. There's a difference. I just want to clarify for the audience. He's using practical as in the sense of practicable.
That's what I mean.
Right. And I'm using practical in the sense that affordable. In other words, so we have this another example of a word being ambiguous, confusing both us and the audience. But he's correct when he says it's not practicable. It's not reducible to practice, right? Which is
it's not systematically possible.
Correct. Whereas when I say practical, I mean the sense that, well, people wouldn't do that anyway, right? I mean, it's just too expensive,
right?
Something of that nature, or it would be, if we actually could do it, there's no way that people would actually want it, right? It's not practical. It's just basically practical means expensive.
Okay, but it is
reducible to practice and practically and subjectively practical. I think those are those.
Now I'm going to tie this back in a way that you're going to like.
Oh yeah,
because it is practical.
This involves tying up some moment, because that's usually part I like. I got you there. I got applause. I never win, and I got one.
Okay, so it goes like this. I got to retrain my thought here. Get back on the tracks. Okay, it is practical for those people who are the sophists and the verbalists who generate these lies, because they're parasitic in their function, like toxoplasmosis is to the rats, which is to say, the toxoplasmosis poisoned the rat's mind, because rats, normally quite fearful of the smell of cat urine, become strangely attracted to it when the toxoplasmosis gets them, which is necessary. They do. They seek their cat urine out, and then interestingly, the parasite is necessary for the parasite in the rat to be ingested by the cat in order to complete its life cycle. And so
that's horrible. Isn't that horrible?
There's a multitude of these things which cause psychological disturbance in the host, which is what we're talking about here. Parasitic, damaging to the host, bad behavior, which is what Western civilization is suffering from at the moment and has been suffering from for the since 1914. And I would argue 1885, but that's it. Now, was that a good enough segue?
Well, I mean, I was trying to figure if I should riff off that, because there is the the general argument that I don't like, memes have become something of a clown word,
Yes.
but concepts have meta reproductive value, right? And some concepts are infectious. And so we should treat ideas the same way we treat bacteria and viruses. And
That's right. It's a mind virus is how Lindsay talks about it. He talks about it as a mind virus.
and he's right. If you can disrupt the organization of information in a cell, you can appropriate the energy in the cell. If you can't disrupt the organization of information of mind, you can capture the energy of the body, right? And put it to your end. So it's absolutely false. It's not, excuse me, it's not just an analogy. It's a scale in the infection of a system, right? The biological system. So it's absolutely true. The thing is that in both cases, the ability to manufacture contagions is cheaper and faster and more frequent than the ability to manufacture defenses. So it's quite difficult to develop new defenses against viruses, bacteria. What's the other one? Prions.
Oh my, those are wicked.
Yeah, those are horrible. And so, and just like it's, and we could actually just call defects cancer cells, right? So we have cancerous cells. It's hard to fix. It's hard to fix bacteria cells that are harmful. It's hard to fix viral cells that are viral, whatever they are. And it's certainly difficult to fix prions. We can't even figure out what the fuck they are. So, these things are very micro amounts of information that basically infect an information system and appropriate its energy. Well, the same thing happens with falsehoods. Is desirable falsehoods infect the human mind and capture the human energy for some benefit that it's not, that some use that is not of, that the life form believes is to its benefit, but is not. Right. So the person might believe that the feminine, the Marx, the Abrahamic, the Marxist, the postmodern, the neo-Marxist woke chain is just a viral chain. And you might think that this is producing something that's good for you. The problem is that the antivirus, which is truth, is very expensive to produce compared to new innovations and lies. There's only one truth that's emergent, but the number of lies, which we've discovered in our investigation into lying, right? I mean, the truth is a very narrow sort of set of deflationary grammars that really are pretty clear. Whereas lying, I mean, holy crap, it's almost as broad as the human auto associate. I mean, all you have to do is stay within the limits of human auto association. I mean, if it's desirable and it's auto-associable, you can suggest it. I mean, the fact that it's actually ridiculous is actually a benefit because it becomes less subjectable to reason. So when you say something like faith, or you say something like oppression, these are things that you can just assume without falsifying.
They're not falsifiable.
Well, oppression is falsifiable, is it? No, it's domestic. Right, it isn't. Right, you can't.
It's just like,
You can't tell the difference between yourself being domesticated and you being oppressed, right? I mean,
oppressing me, Kurt.
yeah. And then if you have faith, you basically said I'm abandoning reason. And okay,
Right there, it's beyond reason, right? Don't need reason.
Well, it's okay if you say if faith is a substitute for trust, right? It is different from faith as a substitute for knowledge. So if I have faith as a substitute for trust, which is what Christianity is really trying to teach you, it's like, look, just trust that over time, if we all are Christian, we behave as Christ taught us, that in the end, the enemy will surrender to love more quickly than he will surrender to continuous retaliation.
Right.
And it turns out to be true. It's counterintuitive, but it turns out to be true, right? It's basically it's basically Christianity is just how do you take what's the term for being altruism? Altruism to the nth limit, right? You just take it, say, okay, I'm just going to be altruistic to the point where I can't be, where you're absolutely not mistaken. You're not.
You're my enemy.
You're actually my enemy, right? I mean,
unavoidably, I can't avoid this.
I can't avoid this any longer, right? But that's what Christianity is trying to teach you is that, which is, and to give your mind all these sedative mechanisms to not get pissed off at how bad people are, right? And that's what Christianity does, and it works. I mean, Christians are lovely people. I can't say this. I'd love to be around Christians. Or I love them, right? I just don't want to have to argue with them.
No, there's
right?
no point in it.
And they're not even a problem to govern. You just leave the fucking people alone, right? You just leave them alone, right? But I don't want those people having to argue with me about stuff, right? I mean, it's a really good thing of church and state, right? I'm a state, you're a Christian. You're not going to do anything wrong anyway, as long as I don't ask you to do anything immoral, then you're going to go along with it, right? So it's church and state. That works out great. The thing is, you have to know if you're a member of church or state. I'm a member of state, right? I'll deal with the fucking problems. I don't mind. It's not hard for me, right? And I'll be loyal to Christians, right? Just don't fucking argue with me. Just it's too painful. You can tell me when something's immoral. It's wrong, and that would be harmful. But don't tell me what scripture says. That's not arguing.
Okay,
anyway.
I forsake that language. I won't do it. What's funny to me is this an equal sign and not equal sign, right? So faith is roughly equal to trust, which is parallel lines, right?
It's just trust.
And faith is not equal to truth.
No.
Which is the cross sign, the cross. It's a crossroads. It's like you got to pick one. You can't.
Here you go with your symbolism.
I know.
I have learned that this is okay. You've taught me that this is okay. The difference is whenever you do that, I want to pull up like a pentagram and draw weird witch symbols on it and stuff and say, does this work too?
Yeah, it will work. I'll show you how it works, Kurt. It'll work. Whew.
Anyway,
that was a good warm up, Kurt. Is that not even an hour in?
Well, we
gotta look. I'm gonna recap this for the audience because it was such a remarkable tour that we just made. It was a great recap of epistemology to organization of human potentials in the imaginable, calculable, and mathematic. Before, during, and after, not in that order. To the discussion of Marxism, and I was able to introduce into this discussion toxoplasmosis and other sciences of psychological nature and tie it all back together to get us to where we are now. I'm very pleased about this conversation. Now I want to talk about lying.
Well, so the reason I was late is because I was trying to make sure I was prepared.
Okay. You were prepared.
Was I?
I think so.
I don't know. Normally what I've been having to try to do is if it's on a Saturday, I have to go back to the Tuesday meeting and watch it because I've done so much between it. But I have another couple of topics I want to cover because they'll help us cover.
Okay.
So So as everyone knows, I'm trying to do some apologetics.
Uh-oh.
My health has been a nightmare and I'm slowly getting better, but in reviewing the videos, I see that I'm still up and down a lot, but my health is getting better. Thanks to many people. I would actually say it's more to Dr. Brad, who's not really my doctor, but just giving me advice than it is to my doctor, who's really he's really a nurse.
Oh my.
But This doesn't, it's like, nobody help. Anyway, so, so that's getting better. So so one of the things that's happened is I've getting better as I have more energy. And so I'm very diligently managing my energy. That's what I'm basically doing these days is I'm like, what's my energy level? Let's not overdo it. So I continue to get better.
Right.
So what I've done this week is Brad and I have been working in PowerPoint because I haven't been able to work in the website because the website performance.
Oh my.
So I went and I rebuilt the website all over again. It looks the same. It's not the same. It just looks the same. It's completely different. And so it's back to perform. I mean, I did all sorts. I mean, it's basically all new, right? It's got the same data behind it, but well, most of it, but it's all new. And that's so that Brad and I can work in longer form because I'm continually oppressed by the size of a PowerPoint page.
Yes.
So what we're going to do over the next bit is Brad and I are going to try to move the work we've done in PowerPoint into the book. What you don't see is if you load the book, you don't see all the chapters that are already written that are not linked into the book. So we're going to move those chapters into the book too, which there's a lot. There's a lot there. It's a lot more than you think there. And it's a lot better, honestly, than I thought it was now that I'm sort of back on the game. So that's what we're going to do. And I think we'll start with, we'll continue with lying to do that. I replaced the search that the site uses, which is MySQL. The database is MySQL. It's really it's too slow because there's a lot of content up there. I mean, it's like, I don't know, just in text, it's like 50 gigabytes. I mean, it's an impossible amount of text up there. And I'm prolific.
It's true. I'll vouch for you.
So so what I did is I took off that search and I put Google search and it's instantaneous. So basically the site is instantaneous.
There you go.
And it was oh my God. I mean, I spent a lot of time, thank you, Alan, trying to get the not to have a thrashing over the SSLs, the security, right? Site security. Then when I got into the site, I realized how many spammers are hitting the site, which is, I had no idea, right? I mean, it's just a constant barrage. And because that the logs are like 15 gigabytes a day, right? I mean, so I went back and I blocked all that stuff. I blocked specific IP ranges and things like that. And then I installed certain software. I shut off other APIs and whatever. So now it's down to a dull roar. And so it's getting there. So I had to clean up all those logs, but then I started working on the data and I got the cleaning the data is, oh my God, there's just so much spam they've stuffed into, and it's almost all in user accounts, right? They're trying to pull our user accounts. I mean, if you can try to play a game, they're trying to play it, right? So what's been basically happening is the site's been effectively under denial of service attack by spammers trying to hook into the site. So that's really what's happened. And so now if you look at it, it's just instantaneous, right? There still is the problem that there are quite a few hosting models on Amazon, and I'm hosted on Amazon. And this one, the hosting, we're using one of the lighter weight hosting models, and we're using sort of the medium cost version of that. I may have to either go up to the higher cost version of it, or move from the what's called the light sale, which is their light version, to regular AWS. But you know, we have a fairly small number of consistent donors, right? And some of them are completely anonymous, right? They don't say anything. I didn't realize you were one until I looked at the data yesterday. So thank you for your ongoing support. I didn't really have any idea. Thank you. So no, it matters because it's increasingly costly to run this thing. But my goal with this thing is I'm trying to keep the prices down because I don't like to ask for money, right? This is not that kind of organization. We're not trying to, but if people are devoted and you want to give us a little bit, we have a donation button on the site and you can do it, whatever. And that's all we do with it, is we pay for the phone number, the hosting fees, and there's various other software costs and things that go on during the year, and it's not that much. It used to be that one guy would give us like $2,000 and pay for the whole year, right? That would happen every once in a while. I don't mention that person's name because it's just an ordinary guy, right? I mean, he doesn't comment, participate, or anything. And then we just have a small number of regulars who keep it, and they're who fund all of this stuff, right? I mean, I'm self-funded, but I mean the agents, the work here. So we would like to get to where we're funded enough that we could pay Martin full time. That would be my greatest, and then we would like after that to get till we could pay content producers full time, because as Martin has recently learned,
it's more work than it looks
it's
like,
way
man.
more work than you can imagine to just edit these. It's why I don't do it. It's why Brad and I run in this format, is because we just do it as an online talk show, as a chat, because otherwise to edit the 3 hours is like 6 hours to 8 hours of work. And so just making clips, because like that epistemology clip we just,
That's huge.
That's a huge insight that people want to get. So that's what we'd like to do. So if anyone feels like, I don't ask if I have a real problem with funding the Institute, like we had in the past, we've had a couple of issues. I just ask and the money happens to show up, right? I mean, people give us money, but my goal is to not be one of those. We're here for, we're here to raise money to whatever. We're here not to be one of those people who has to pander to clicks.
Right. My attitude is you donate to that work which you find to be valuable.
Right.
And that's what you do, because it's the best thing you can think to do. So that's all.
So in any event, and one of the problems, of course, on the right is the left does donate and the right doesn't. That's the basic problem, right? The left donates like crazy and the right doesn't. And this is partly because of the nature of the responsibility on the right.
Right.
But it's just part of the character of people. But in any event, so how did I get there? I didn't mean to go into the donation.
You were talking about the website.
So what I did is I've got it back so that it's a working platform for us. And I'm just disappointed that, of course, I didn't have the mental faculties to devote a week's worth of, because it's taken me a week, really, a week's worth of energy to getting it under control. But now I've put a week's worth of energy in it. I've rebuilt it from scratch. I think so what I've got left to do is the content, right? You've got to do this content. There's all sorts of content you've got to fit in on a website to, and some of it's old and needs to be replaced and whatever, but by and large, that's it. The main reason I want to have that up there is to be able to talk about our work, right?
Right.
And so I was wondering if, Brad, you'd let me take a few minutes here to talk about the website and how I plan to talk about our work.
That's great.
Is that all right?
Please do. You need you want to be in charge of the screen? The host share, okay. Just a moment. I'm fighting with a problem I'm trying to address.
You know, Brad,
I'm having a,
there's people who make your life hell on purpose. Did you know that? It's called the medical profession.
I'm apologizing because I got a,
Why don't you pause and I'll get a coffee while you fix that?
there you go. My apologies. I'm pausing
Pause.
the recording. There we go. It's over there.
Okay, go.
We resume with a fresh cup of coffee.
You know, Brad, do I have to start wearing a jacket and tie?
No, sir. You
Because
do a
like,
very good. Hey, I want look at just show us that.
you,
Show us
you
that.
like show me up all
Show
the
us that.
time.
That's freaking awesome. I
We're
don't
going to
have
be able to
that.
get this on our
I like that.
website, although I don't know if it's going to be here or here. I think it's going to be here. But you'll be able to get that. You'll be able to get a coffee cup, you know, stuff like that.
Wait, we call it, what do they call that? Merch.
Yeah, I don't want to make money at it. I want to satisfy the demand for it. You know what I mean? It's like,
I know. Yeah,
right.
It's like I'm gonna be shameless.
Well, it's okay to make money. The point is, I don't expect it to be any great thing. I just want those of us who want to celebrate to be able to.
That's right. Because see, I want to use the right cup,
Yes.
not somebody else's cup. The right cup to hang with the right people and study the right things so we can make our right way through the world together.
That's right.
That's all. Now, with that proper introduction and a fresh cup of coffee, Kurt's refreshed. We have one more epistemological journey to take, Kurt.
Yeah. Can I do the website and come back to it? I will add it
I'm
if
sorry,
can.
did I make you the host? I did not.
So, no, it's just because I want a break.
I dub you the host.
So I cut off the, just for the audience, I cut off the, because this is what Brad and I do, right? We meander all over the place. So I cut off the epistemology discussion before I tied it into theory and what was the other half of it?
Law.
Yeah, theory, law.
Auto association theory.
Oh,
law.
and then the contents of a theory. So so it's the contents of a theory. In other words, its components and how what I described relates to the problem of how we describe theory, hypothesis theory and law today. So I want to address those two things, but I need a break from thinking hard.
Too much work.
So,
It's cool the neurons down a little bit. They're over text.
yeah, that's maybe it's just that I want the coffee to hit me. All right. So what I covered in a little bit ago is I've rebuilt the site entirely. I'm going to throw us over to that just now. When I throw us over to the site like this, does the audience still see our faces somewhere?
Yes. I don't know. I think so. I think so, but I don't know for a fact. We'll have to look at the video and I'll check later.
All right. So can you see my pointer at all?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I use the same background image because I just love this image. It's very painterly. You see how the clouds
It's
are
so
done here?
beautiful.
They look kind of fake to me, but I don't care because they're beautiful. I mean, so painterly. All right. So I changed this to be the Natural Law Institute there, and I changed it to be the Natural Law Institute there. I updated the phone number and the contact information. That's great. You notice otherwise it looks pretty much the same. I just noticed that this theme, the theme I copied, in other words, the previous theme I used, I bought, right? And it came with this blue and gold, which happens to be the colors of Ukraine. And I didn't ever notice that until I realized I put them up today. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, those are the colors. And I'm like, oh, is that going to signal that I mean? No, it's completely random. Blue and yellow or blue and orange. They're a color combination that's pretty common in color harmonies. So it was completely accident. And as you can see, I don't have I have content to fill in here, right? This blue, this yellow, and there.
Yeah.
Right. But what I've done is, of course, I've changed the Google reciprocity, right? So that if you search for boom, the answer shows up right away, and pages show up right away.
Very nice.
All right. So the performance is there. You can work with the site comfortably once again. Even if we go to something like the law, I don't know, somewhere around here, I have it up here. Like if you go to this, right, if you click on a section of this, which is an incredibly intensive piece of text, it comes right up.
Very
Okay.
nice.
Right. So I'm going to go back to the home page. Now, obviously, I've got the usual donate, make a monthly donation, make a single donation. Right. I have those out. I have the normal about pages, contact us, etc. Right. As you can see, I've got to fill this all in, but the site is there. Right. I've got our legislation, against Facebook, etc. So I've got all that. Log in, log out, and if you log in, log out, and you can go into your the other the stuff that's behind it, the courseware and stuff. However, that's not what I really care about. What I care about is these first four sections. The law, which most of you have seen, right? This links to our section on the law as it currently stands. You've probably seen all this, like the Declaration of Reformation. See how fast it comes up now?
Yes, very nice.
What I've added to that is the tech, which is I've added the two programs I talk about and the one I never talk about. And this is how we get to organize things at large scale, which is the software. It's Oversing, which is the interface, Runcible, which is the artificial intelligence behind it, and Riddle is the content AI that tells you which kind of lying is going on.
So where is this found?
Well,
How do I get to this?
it's under the tech.
The tech, okay.
Right. I think that Oversing is under Runcible. I haven't moved to this over. I'm going to keep it.
Gotcha. No, I'm curious because that's very interesting to me.
So Runcible is under Oversing, and so if you want to go into it, there's Oversing. Oversing is basically an operating system for humans instead of an operating system for computers. And basically, it's just your normal. It's the universal workflow from left to right.
Okay.
And so you can run any. I won't explain it, but every application, every major platform that exists that produced by Microsoft or Oracle, whatever, they all do exactly the same thing with a slightly different interface and a lot of math. This thing's basically a universal application.
Nice.
And it's basically programmable by power users without the use of programming. I'm not going to show that to you because it's too complicated.
No.
Right. So this is where I am in this. I'm just getting this stuff going, right? So I've been sick for a year. I basically got sick a little over a year ago, but I only got some of this out about a year ago. So that's the tech. Now Riddle is the software that says this is using the feminine method of deceit by this means. This awesome. Is right. So it's essentially the filtering we want. There's three stages of filtering, and this isn't my idea. It's my idea is only the improvement of it. The first stage of filtering is being rude, right? And just saying foul things, right? The second thing is sort of how you make your argument. And the third thing is the content. So most of us don't really want to filter content. We want to filter being rude and making stupid arguments.
Okay, so I want you to restate that for me. What do you mean? I want to filter being rude. Is that me being rude or other people being rude?
Other people being rude.
I was going to say I use being rude as my filter to filter out bullshit.
Well, I was talking about Brandon, and then Brandon has adopted the same strategy. I use the arrogance filter.
How does that work?
It works great.
How does it work? I mean, like operationally, how does it work?
I know more about this than you do. I'm better than you, more
yes.
accomplished than you.
Yeah, you don't
do.
even presume that you have
And
anything.
if you had an argument, you would make one, right? And the thing is that forces them to attack you personally again. And every time they personally attack you, you just restate the core argument, restate the central argument. And so what happens is they keep attacking you personally, and you just keep repeating reality by chanting the central argument. It works flawlessly and so what you do is they insult you, you insult them back because you say you're not able to make an argument because you're not competent to make an argument because you're not informed enough to make an argument. So you're knowledge, and
you're demonstrating it by your repeated attacks on my person.
And what happens is, of course, is that their ability to signal runs out of
steam. No steam.
So the problem this demonstrates is the cost of falsifying bullshit versus the cost of, in other words, versus the cost of bullshitting. So Twitter is a vehicle specifically designed to prevent argument and to promote virtue signaling and counter signaling. If they made it longer, you'd be able to post arguments, but they don't, because that would stop us from having virtue competitions, which is basically generating moral outrage. Facebook was better at it because you could make arguments there, which is why I was very successful on Facebook, and I can't be successful on Twitter. So in any event, so this particular AI uses the work we've done, and you think it's complicated. It's only complicated if you don't know our work. If you know our work, it's just tagging. I don't know if you know what tagging is in AI, but it's one of those, it's one of those, it's one of those. And eventually the AI begins to learn what things sound like. What's important is the theory, our work, right? The science of the grammars. Once you know how these things are constructed, it's just a matter of tagging, just like you're tagging pictures of dogs or in cats. I mean, it's eventually going to figure out what a dog and a cat look like, right? My favorite one is, though, because this is common, they started to identify huskies by the fact that there was snow in the picture. Right?
That's fascinating.
So, you have to, we have better software now to figure out what it's actually responding to, but linguistically it's actually pretty easy to separate. So my goal here is not so much to filter, it's to educate. Because if you're putting up there, you have says explain this, it'll explain it, and it's sort of like funny. I mean, I don't know if it's still active anymore, but when you first wrote databases, there was a thing called show query plan,
right,
which said, here's the thing you said, but here what it actually means. And I'm like, I sort of have that vision in my head as here's what the person said, but here's what they actually mean.
Oh, okay.
And so you would be able to categorize this, and I just see it as a bullshit or lie meter.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's just like these 3 meters, which is manners, means, and content. Right. And I just see these 3 meters, and as you get a score on this thing, and all of a sudden it's not so much that you filter stuff out, but that you educate people on what lying is. And I just think that's the beauty of riddle, right? Which I don't know if you know what that means, but riddle's an interesting word because it does mean what we think it means, which is I'm telling you a riddle, but it also means riddled with holes, like a sieve.
Oh, yeah.
So the riddle is the Old English version of sieve.
It's a ventilated holder.
Yeah. So those are the technologies that we've got. I I have obviously oversing is reduced to practice, right? I mean, it's a working application that needs to be taken from alpha to release stage, and it's huge, right? It's basically an operating system.
Yeah.
It runs in your browser, but for all intents and purposes, it's an operating system for humans, not computers, right? Runcible is written as a specification, and Riddle is written as a paper. So, but it's not like the only reason to do. I mean, in other words, these are not things I don't know how to do. Right? There are things that are ready to go to practice. Right? So that's important because it's one thing to ask to raise money for this. It's another thing to raise money to produce that. And this then is applied science underneath the tech. So we can tell you if something's illegal or immoral or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So this leads to a moral AI. All right. So it's not, so what the thought I have been struggling with, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this. I'm telling the audience why I'm doing this.
Yes.
Is that I don't feel, because especially given my health of the past couple of years, I don't feel capable of both running a company and participating and continuing my research work unless I unite them, because they're actually related, right?
That's right.
Unless I unite them into one system where I can work with one organization. I'm not Elon Musk. Right? I can't run, SpaceX and Tesla and 3 other things.
I understand you.
I don't have, I had high work capacity and was younger, but as I've aged, it hasn't continued with me. Now, to get past that, we're familiar with the law, right? We're familiar with the law, we're familiar with the tech, and we are familiar with the science, right? I mean, you and I have been working on the science, right? I feel like this menu on the science needs to have some introductory pieces, right? And then it has to go down into the chapters.
Yeah.
Or the sections. I'm asking you for feedback. And the reason is that I think there's things you need to understand before you dive into this tone.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
There is. That's correct.
All right. And then, sorry?
I would say that it talks about the, you said at one time that we have discovered the single operating principle of the universe that is at all scales.
Yes.
And that is the introduction that is necessary. And a brief explanation of that, so that the reader or the person browsing it will have that as a reference point to see the fractal organization of the universe at every scale in the text that is included or attached.
Okay. So that's part of the introduction. There's also some content that you've sort of got to, like I brought this up earlier, there's some illusions you have to dispel.
Oh my, some.
So I want to talk about what we talked, I think it was last night. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't remember. We talk about so much stuff. I can't remember when we talked about it.
Right.
But I want to talk a little bit about why this is like the Darwinian or Copernican revolutions.
Oh my.
All right.
Yes.
I want to take away the objections because Darwin was not entirely pleasant, all right, to know. This isn't entirely pleasant to know either. It is, however, empowering.
It's true. It's
Right.
entirely, it's large. It has a large unpleasant nature to it.
Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of science turns out, a lot of what's true. I mean, let's look at the universe, okay? It's a vast, hostile, irradiated wasteland, all but completely intolerant of life, right? And right? It's not a heaven waiting for us to ascend into. All right, let's get that clear.
Right.
That wasn't, it's not nice, all right?
It's not nice.
We're not the center of the universe. we're kind of meaningless out there.
Sorry.
So all of these things are humbling.
Mhm.
So I think we have to talk about what's humbling. I think we have to take that.
Okay.
And the third piece, are you recording? You're writing these
Writing
down?
it down.
I'm going to need these notes.
Yes.
The third piece is that there's some basic stuff people don't what does science mean? What does logic mean? What is what do these words we use like theory and law and stuff mean? And I think I have to sort of get that down to some level that
Elementary.
I need to get that to an elementary level that people can understand. So they know when they say, is that science? Well, you mean it's mathematically reducible? We already covered that. It ain't. Because mathematically reducible means we don't have any choice. It's computational reducible, right? We can reduce it to a set of operations. It's just that's explicative. But one of the things that the positives got wrong is that you can figure out everything by calculating. Well, you can't. You can just, because you can't imagine every consequence of your calculations.
That's correct.
It's the same thing as saying it's not mathematically reducible. So when the libertarians say, well, there's no use for positivism in economics, or no need for research in economics, that's simply false. I've given 4 canonical examples of this in my work on this subject. So there's a bunch of there's some basic, in other words, when I say what is this, and I say it's science, right? It's the science of producing the grammar of the universe by the paradigm vocabulary, the paradigm consisting of first principles of the vocabulary and the grammar and logic of doing it. And so I said, if you don't understand that, you won't understand what you're reading. And then the last point is, somewhere, I think you made your first point, which is there's a basic order of the universe. Turns out it's really fucking simple. It's so
wait, this is for the audience, okay, Kurt? It's like it's just ridiculous. It's just so, like, really?
It's really ridiculously simple. And I went sideways in the conversation earlier when I tried to talk about I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I went sideways in the conversation when I was trying to talk about these physicists talking nonsense. And I went, of course, I tried to go sideways in my mind again just by thinking about it. And it's because it's precisely because the universe is that simple.
I know this is the hard part for the people that are trying to read your book, your work, or they're going to read that because they have to get over this bullshit.
Right. That's what. Okay. That's exactly why we need what I was saying a minute ago. We need a section that says what you've got to get over.
Get over it, right?
Get over it. We need a get over it section, because otherwise there's just like they go into this thing with expectations that are silly.
Well, and it's like, oh, and it.
So my favorite thing being the universe is fitted for man. No, the universe there's conditions which the universe has, which form some set of frequencies that make possible stable relations, right? The universe will calculate some set no matter what, right? Would the universe be different? It's unlikely. What Wolfram has said, and I agree with him, is it will always end up deterministically no matter what with this basic set of operations, because the universe is evolutionary too. The first principle is evolutionary, right? It may be that no matter what we do, it ends up this way.
Which is interesting. This points to me the simple nature of it, which is we're like Darwin, applied to all the sciences, not just biology.
Correct.
Well,
Exactly.
that's a paradigm shift of such a magnitude that is almost unimaginable to everybody that you talk to, which that's what you got to get over. This is the application of Darwinian thinking to everything, and it is the ultimate reduction of all human knowledge into that paradigm.
Correct. Because that's the
No,
universe.
it's just so humbling, though. It's like
The universe consists of evolution, of one law, evolution.
that's,
By continued the random calculation of evolutionary computations that perform stable relations that persist, increases in the stored energy that defeats entropy. We call that negative entropy. That's it. The whole universe has one fucking rule, and it's so humiliating, humbling.
it's ridiculous. So, in addition to Babbage, we can take aim at Darwin for not generalizing his function, his understanding, right?
You know, I wonder.
I am. I just added him into the list of guys that were just on it, just touched it, and didn't. Didn't.
I have to be sure, because I'm not sure that he didn't. Yeah, I don't think he did. You see other people sort of getting there, but mathiness has become a cancer in the hard sciences. The failure to grasp the epistemology I just stated,
Yes.
in the earlier section, has become a cancer in our educational institutions.
Well, that's because they get paid to do it.
Well, they get paid to pretend that their faction has its own specialness when it doesn't.
Special education.
There's only one grammar to the universe.
How dull. Okay.
All right, so
You want to talk about epistemology?
well, I want to finish this section.
Okay, I'm good.
I just got the answer out of you I was looking for. I mean, I'm like, I got to get this answer out of Brad. Like, I know if I talk to him about it, I'll figure out.
Just gotta bat him around like a cat and see what happens.
Well, no, you're the great proxy for the audience, right? I mean, and so and you're smart and you know what we're doing, and I don't want to be I don't want to be too fallacious here in both meanings of the word, but the point here is that when I talk about, I need a section that's like, get over it,
right?
That's the problem. I couldn't figure out how to conceptualize, how do we solve this problem. It's the stuff you've got to get over. I don't want to call it what you got wrong.
No, that's too rude.
It's like what you got to get over, right? It's the what you get over content, and we've listed it. And as long as I can start with that, I've created the framework for the narrative that prevents interpretation and prevents attempts to falsify during the whole thing. In other words, you got to admit what the problem is up front, so that you don't say to people aren't reading it and saying, but what about, and they don't figure it out till the end. So I just want to take it off the table. I want to take the objections off the table by saying, you're going to encounter these objections. And by the way, they're things you got to get over because they aren't objections.
The proper terminology is pretensions.
Pretensions. Presumptions.
Pretensions.
I think it's presumptions.
Well, it's like this.
It's only pretension if you have some concept of it, right? You have
no, sir. It's pretension. It's pre-existing tension.
Oh, but you're doing it to me again.
Oh my, being right. Is that it?
I called Brad. Brad called me last night. I said, "Hey, I'm getting sick of telling you you're right. It's really pissing me off."
It's good coffee, brother. It's good coffee. So it's like this. It's like
that's that's how. Just want to let you know, Brad saying it's good coffee, and his throwing out a compliment. That's his version of, yeah, I know I'm right.
So it is. I will say it again, because it is pretension, even if you don't know it's pretend, because you think it's real. Okay, you're acting like it's real. You think it's real, but it's pretension. This
is an ongoing difference between how you interpret the work and how I do, which
It's
is
all right.
no,
Sure.
it's good for the audience to frame these
That's
things.
all. That's all it is.
And so is that Brad tends to say to look at the mind of the actor and the people who are acting and inhabit their bodies, which is, and I tend to reduce everything to we're fucking bots. What's the software causing the bots to do? And so,
Wow.
and so
Okay.
when the audience hears Brad and I do these things, you'll hear things like, and this is a good one he's on right now, which is, well, the betas are doing this. I would start with the first principles of saying the people who are using the feminine strategy of this whatever because they're trying to gain social, I would walk through it, right? So I just view everybody as a really mindless bot living in a dream, they're totally unconscious of what they're doing. And Brad is trying to say a lot of things from the actor's perspective, right, in relation to other actors or from an observer of other actors. And this is one of the reasons it's valuable to be in this conversation is because when I hear Brad talk like that, I think of, okay, how do I make sure I reach the audience? Right. And so it works out really well. And so when you I hear me teasing Brad about symbolism and about verbalisms and other stuff like that. He's not wrong. He's saying how people who are informed, who have some knowledge of affairs, who have an academic background, who have some education, or even who live ordinary lives, this is the associations they're going to make. And so I get to roll that stuff around in my head. And I make fun of it, right? Right? I mean, I make fun of it, but I get to roll that stuff around in my head and say, how do I overcome this?
It's like, so it's like Kurt's turned the operational. I say some symbolic nonsense, and Kurt has to operationalize it so that he can program everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
That works for me.
I just think it's, well, the thing is that the you see, like, you see people who get so much out of these conversations.
Yes.
But the fact that we do this in this sort of bar room discourse,
Yes, sir.
or living room discourse, which is full of our sarcasm and humor and irony and whatever else nonsense, can obscure what's going on. There's actually hard work going on here.
Doesn't seem like it though, does it?
I get tired sometimes after these. Anyway, so well, that's what I wanted out of you, which was what is this? What do we do to introduce the science? And I think there needs to be a column of things there that's a list of the things I'm going to call them objections or I'll call them presumptions, and you would call them, what did you call them?
Pretensions.
Pretensions.
Because it's okay. I'm good. We're good.
No, I just want to take those off the table because that's actually going to form a curiosity.
You will naturally be attracted to these problems as you go through this work, as glitches in your software,
right,
that are going to attract your attention as you read the work.
But it also is different from saying, here's this shiny object. It's different from saying, here's this shiny object, and by the way, notice in yourself these things, right? So it makes it, it's a different kind of honesty or truth, the truthfulness, honesty, that it provides legitimacy, but it also helps the person who's reading,
that's right,
who's going through the work, understand, okay, this is what he was talking about. This is what they were talking about. This is what those guys are saying, because we've said in advance that these are the hard stuff.
You are going to run into this, and is it auto-reflective function?
Yes, you don't. It's not. It's just natural for you to do, right?
And that we don't know exactly what that will mean in any individual reader, but we know that they're going to run into these auto-reflective functions of these that are illustrated in this section.
Yep.
That'll be good because it will prepare them to see it and witness it. It's like a hypnotic function. You're telling them what they're going to get. You will get this result when you read this science.
Yep.
And it will be a reflection of your own pretense and the falsification of your own errors in programming.
I just think that helps ground
Oh, that's very nice.
everything, right? I think that helps everything in place. All right, so that's, have you got that? I'm going to need
Yep.
the.
I'm going, I'm writing notes.
Now, if we go back to the sharing the screen.
Yes.
So we've covered, these part, I forgot, the learning part, courses, blog, all this stuff is in here. I put the glossary back in, by the way,
Excellent.
right? I haven't edited it, but
I understand.
and we've gone over the science now. Now I want to talk about the plan or our strategy, right?
Yes.
And so I wonder the same thing here is say, why are we doing this?
That's very good.
Right. And so what I want is the plan, the science, the law, the tech, right?
Yes.
You got to learn it, donate about. So the point is that's the whole program is where it's an action-oriented program.
Yes.
It includes the theory, solution, and the infrastructure.
That's perfect.
Theory, right? The science behind it.
Huh.
To generate the demand, the science behind it, the solutions to implement in the law, and the tech by which to operate the polity. All right.
Perfect.
So it's
I like it's before, during, and after. See.
Exactly. So the point I want to get across is it's a comprehensive program, right? We have the science, the problem, the science, the solution and the law, and the technology by which to administrate under the law. And educate and everything else, which is going to take IBM because that's the only people I would trust to do it. Anyway,
Why are we doing this?
why are we doing this? And so I think I can cut this off. Can I close the window now?
That's fine.
So I want to describe why do you feel something's wrong?
That's a ridiculous thing. It's like this. Everybody knows something's wrong.
I'm going to say, what is wrong? Right?
What is wrong?
What's gone wrong?
What's gone wrong?
Right?
God damn. Okay.
The options on how to fix it
Yes.
and what we're recommending
Yeah.
and what happens if we don't fix it.
Oh my. That's right.
Did you notice way over here on the law?
Wait. We're not looking at anything.
You notice way over here. I'm just leaving this in here.
There you go.
I'm just quietly leaving this in here.
The law.
The basics, the Declaration, the Constitution, the prosecutions, the Civil War.
Oh my.
So the problem is we don't want to get here. We don't. I want to make people understand that this is going to happen. We've never had what's currently happening not result in this. So I want to. So I want to.
Wait. This is that. I heard that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I think we should talk about the crisis,
Yes.
what the options are,
Yeah.
and what you can do.
What you personally can do
Yep.
to make it better as an individual who reads this, right? For yourself, your family, your community, and the public in general, right?
Yep.
How
So
you can make it
I
better.
want to put down here, that's for this section, is
Yeah.
the most comprehensive solution to the crisis of our age. That's what that's for.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this is needed anymore. I was going to put some videos, right? These just basic videos like to touch people, but this may be enough. This might be enough. Right?
No, I think that it's like this. It might be, but I think you should put them there too, as for in case someone's
Yes.
wants to browse it in a different fashion.
Okay. All right. All right. So I'm going to close this now. All right.
Yes.
So that's what I hope you took notes on that, because
I did.
I need those notes, because I'm just basically going to do what we just said. So there's content production, but I think if we do that, we say the concept comprehensive solution to the crisis, and then we say what you can do. I'm going to hook in a few other people that are on the ball here, like Lindsay. What the fuck is happening to Jordan Peterson? He's like something's going wrong with him. Something really wrong. I don't understand. But Lindsay's getting there. He's really getting there, and he's an equally proud disagreeable.
It's remarkable. The disagreeable ones are the ones that are interesting.
The other thing that's interesting is if you look online, you get the illusion that there are a lot of people, but it turns out that we're all associating with the same fairly small number of thought leaders and activists. It's not a really large number, because what's happened over the past 2 years, and Brandon explained this to me, I didn't really understand it, is that we filtered out a lot of the troublesome actors.
There's not very many, really.
Right. And so the people that are pretty talented are pretty limited. In other words, the number of people to work through at that level. So, but I've had some thoughts I wanted to, I think I'll have an offline conversation with you about that.
That would be good.
But my concern is that this has really become a party. In other words, a strategy for a political party, not a strategy for online dweebs.
Oh, right. No, it certainly is a faction, and it is to be real. It's not to be discourse only.
Right.
That sounds interesting.
And so this is what I want to discuss with you, because
We're on the same page.
it's what do I want to say here that's safe? We have developed, and we are still developing, a small number of very intellectual folks that are very capable of doing this. And we need about 20 more. I'm going to bring up this guy, Quanta Fabian, but we basically need 20 more of him. And I think that's important. And I think the political
That's right.
channel is important, but I'm not sure. I feel like the online world has been.
It's an opportunity that appears to be becoming limited in its opportunity.
Right. I mean, to a large degree, the people that are left online are obstacles, not channels.
Yes.
And because all you end up doing is spend a lot of time feeding trolls. Now,
It's not interesting. It's a waste of time.
well, it's not a waste of Martin's time, because he's basically educated.
Find out. He's finding people
He's finding people, he's educating.
That's right. That's different. That's
Um,
different than the operations in the space in a social sense.
Brandon is out there running tests of how to interact with local political groups.
Yes.
I have enough experience to run with parties, but I'm still too much of a nerd. You need a person out of that space. You know, someone like Brian is better at that.
Yes.
He's basically charming and normal, and so we need to work on that particular venue. But I think that once we have a comprehensive plan here, we're ready to go that route. Because at least for me, disconnecting from a lot of that negativity has, like you said, like you were right again, so fuck you.
Thank you.
Saw that, did you?
Of course.
It's been a massive improvement in my life, because I just, I'm not going to be able to.
It's too short. It's too short to have it.
We need to generate social proof
That's
by
right.
people in power and authority. There's no way we're going to educate. All we're going to be able to do is continue what Martin's been doing, which is attracting smart guys, educating them so that we can get. And we just need to not lose. I lost 2 in the past because they were they too much want to be authoritarians. You've really got to get the people that just want to, they don't want power. They just want to be right? They just want to know the truth. And we need those people. And they tend to be more libertarian, classical liberal minded. So there's a certain kind of person we need who can be a judge, which is what we're looking to educate judges. You're not, you had tried to get me and Martin and Luke on a stage. So I'm trying to, or just me and Martin for that matter, try to argue with us. It's fucking all over. Right? I mean, it's never going to happen. Luke is more considerate and kind, which is what I like about him. Right? He's always trying to, and that he's more paternal. And Brandon is right out there in your face, right? And I just got to get a couple more of these younger guys, so they get that number up to at least 12, so that then we have, then it's, because the longer it's Martin is nearly as good as I am. So are you, really. I mean, you are pretty much there. So we just need more people to get to that level. And now Brandon's like, you're trying to make it happen too fast. I'm not really doing that. I'm just saying I'm just trying to think of how I allocate my time, attention, and resources.
That's right.
So anyway. All right. So that's the website is back up. It's performant. We can start working on it, and on it. And so we're not longer bound by it. We'll start moving the content from into it from what's already out there. And we'll start in other words, we'll start moving the content that's written into the book outline. Like I pulled up Reciprocity this morning. I'm like, why isn't this in there? I mean, it's like 10 pages long. Yeah. And so, I mean, the thing is, the draft you read has it, but this draft doesn't. So, so I want to pull that stuff in, and then we'll bring over our insights right there. And I think what we'll do is we'll try to finish lying, because that fucking diamond thing we did, that's fucking scary.
Been working on it, Kurt.
It's
working on. I have this big piece of paper over here.
So powerful.
I just draw the little picture. I just draw on there. I write what the lines mean. It's like, okay, what's that mean? It's very interesting.
It's really annoying.
What? Well, how so, Kurt?
Because it's we think of every axis as supply and demand, and every quadrant that you mentioned, or one of those sections, as a supply demand curve.
It's
That's
right.
all.
It's a
That's
market. It's a marketplace.
It's a set of well, it's an overlapping system of markets, right?
Yeah.
The positive and the negative, and the masculine and the feminine, and it just creates a whole bunch of markets for
How
those
dull.
interactions.
So
And-
boring.
The thing is, I get back to, I don't want people to get into there's some magic here. No, it's just an easy way of representing all those supply demand curves, because that's all. Because I mean, you go to every one. Which demand is being offset by which competition? What's going on? And the diagram seems to do all that for for everything.
That's Kurt you're overheating a couple neurons there. It's astounding, isn't it? Just like,
Well,
right
it
here.
just, the thing is, it makes it so much easier to remember. No, really, I mean, it's like having,
It boils down to symbols, just a
Yeah.
symbol that represents it very, very nicely.
yeah. It's like, well, I mean, so I always thought that, it was very intentional for me to create the diagram of the grammars from an analogy to the periodic table. Right. I mean, that was an intentional plan on my part, which is
Right.
deflationary, inflationary,
Right.
stable deflationary.
Right.
And of course, what's happened is that we've now said, well, there are masculine deceits and feminine deceits. And that was like a problem you can see on one of my drafts. I'm like, well, don't these go down here? And I couldn't quite figure it out, and we sort of got there. But you sort of putting the diagram, the triangles together, and then the grammars together. You almost want to put the grammars vertically instead of, I've got them horizontally now, but
Yeah. That's how I see it. I see
You-
it on the plus minus,
right.
because it is.
You want to put it, the grammars vertically instead of horizontally.
Right.
And all of a sudden this stuff starts, oh, that's creepy, right? You have the physics of the universe, you have the physics of behavior, and you have the language we talk about describing it. I mean, that's all there is. And it gets to be kind of creepy.
It's really creepy because it's like, it's a lot of work to get to one little diagram. It boils down to this little.
Yeah, but doesn't every discovery in science is that? Oh, gravity is the universe square.
Oh,
I mean,
it's hard to figure that out.
It's a
lot of work.
So annoying. It's like, why is there a Planck length? I don't know, but there's a Planck length. And in any universe, there'll be some equivalent of a Planck length,
That's right.
because there's no way to vibrate that any faster.
Can't do it.
You can't do it.
There's probably some quantization of time too itself.
No, that's actually not, you just back to epistemology. Well, we have the mathematic of ratios,
Yes.
right, which is the physical world.
Yeah.
The mathematics that we think of constant relations, which is ordinary mathematics. And we have the mathematics of operations.
Yes.
We end up with the same fucking shit every time.
I'm gonna tell you this. I was having conversations with my patients, and there's this false political dichotomy. They say right and left. There is no right. There's only truth on the right. So I'm doing it for the audience. There's truth on the right, which is what is real. Everything is to the left of that in our imagination.
Yes.
Everything. It's an inflation to the left. And it goes, if you look at my diamonds, it goes like this. That's the top of the diamond. And the grammars extend inflationarily to the left to evil
Yes.
at the beta quadrant, which is how the outgroup is treated by the beta.
Yep.
which is extreme, crazy left-wing nonsense, boiling down to right Nazis, boiling down to liberal English, boiling down to Christendom, based on in the what we call the I call it the top quadrant of there, which is I call Christendom. I don't know what the proper.
Can I run on? Can I, when you're done with that, can I run with that? Because I want to be.
May run with that.
So I want to get on this again. Is that my complaint about Christianity is churchianity, and the insertion of Middle Eastern nonsense into the Christian, basically the Jesus philosophy, right? And it just bothers me because and I keep reinforcing that. Yet he solved the hard problem of social science. He solved it, whether he's real or not. In other words, whether he existed or not, whether he really did that or not, it doesn't matter. This character, whether he existed or not, ended up producing, right, the answer to the problem of how do we incorporate the peasantry into an increasingly advancing society? How do we do that? How do we not have slavery?
Ethically,
how do we not have, you need an institution to do that. You need to program people.
Yes.
He said, so I'm like, I'm a Christian if that means that I listen to what he said. I'm not a Christian if you say, what did the church said? And then I run into the problem of, yeah, but look, the Catholic Church, I mean, they were getting pretty close to getting it right.
Right. So I want to say this is that what you're calling the message of the Christ is the message is correct, and your objection is the churchiness is what you called it, which is like the mathiness, which is betas out of control.
Yeah.
Which is because they're extending down into this beta world, which is not in the ethical quadrant.
There is nothing complex about what Jesus said.
It's
right?
very straightforward and simple, and it works.
It just works. It's really, really simple. And the promise that you will be happy is also true.
There's nothing fallacious about it. There's no false promises. There's nothing else.
Right. Now, if you want to get into your soul, there's a lot in this Christian stuff that is physical existent. Now, when you say your soul, we know what that means. That's the record in your mind of your debts, right? Right. And you want to be free of debt, right? Now, you don't think of it as debt because that shit's happening way down in your brainstem.
Yes.
Right. Your amygdala.
That's right. That's right.
So
very real and neurologic.
It's very, so you say, if you mean life after death, do you mean how people remember you, the impact of all those things are analogies that aren't false, right? They're just analogies, right? And so I don't see a false promise in any of that. No. My problem is reducible to the Abrahamic method of deceit by the combination of sophistry, mythology, and appeal to authority to create all this churchy dogma around it. In other words, I object to what you call the betas, the attempt to obtain power by building on a false promise on top of a truth, that right, in order to profit from it. It's just like politicians or financial people, politicians, these people all do the same. Now it's professors do the same freaking thing. You professors, priests, essentially, what's the order? It would be professors, it would be financial sector, professors, politicians, and priests. That would be the sequence. And it's like this whole group of people is selling you a bunch of lies when the truth is really easiest. And they're like, Christians get mad at me. I'm like, what? I'm telling you, Jesus is right.
They get mad at you?
Right, because they want me to, they say, you've got to believe in believe in this, you've got to surrender to that. And I'm like, no, I don't. I just got
It's like this. That is factually incorrect.
this guy said, do this shit. I got to look at it and say, well, why? Well, it turns out that scientifically he's right. Not faithfully. I'm not doing
That's right. It has nothing to do with faith.
He's just right.
So it'll be like this. It'll be the nice liberal lady. And the liberal will be underscored and capitalized and bold. So this lady's like this. I told her something. It's like science. And she says, everybody has a right to their opinion. I'm like, that's not false, but you falsely believe my science to be opinion. That's different. But I'm not going to, I did not enter the argument with her because
everybody doesn't have the right to claim their opinion is true, because that's a public assertion, not a private choice. You can't claim your opinion is true unless you can testify that it's true. So that's a public assertion of a private claim. You can, however, claim I have the right to my opinion and I'm going to maintain my opinion. You can't claim, however, that it's true, because your opinion is part of your choice, your values.
that's right.
Right? It's your strategy. But when the minute you make a truth claim, there is no meaning of the word true outside of in the interpersonal promise. There's useful, there's consistent and correspondent, but the word true means testimony. That's what it means from treu. It means testimony. True means testimony. It's a freaking ancient word. I mean, the word's 5,000 or 6,000 years old, right?
That's how important it is.
And it meant as strong as an oak. His word is as strong as an oak.
It doesn't break. It goes to the absolute right.
Yep.
And
And
it's
so
like, it's
when you
not
say
over here in inflated land of imaginary associations.
now you could say, I claim to speak truthfully. In other words, I've done due diligence. I can speak honestly. My opinion may be honest. I can speak truthfully and say, I've done due diligence to the best of my ability, and therefore I believe I speak truthfully. Are you speaking true? Well, true means you've survived adversarial competition, regardless of what due diligence you've done and performed. So honest, truthful, true. Three different things. Well, there's no meaning to true except in the social format, in the interpersonal format.
Yes.
Because that's what it means, testimony. Now you can say, I am truthful to myself,
Yes.
right? Which is really fucking hard, by the way.
It's like, yeah, it's hard. I don't imagine it's possible because it's like you're not capable of seeing the bullshit you're generating.
Yes, it's very hard.
Fish in water.
I know how much of my own bullshit I falsified by this research. I know my own values, my own fantasies. I mean, my trail of slaughtered psychological cows that I drag behind me. It's like, what's that Jacob Marley burying the chain of life? Like, I'm dragging this long chain of dead, sacred Kurt Doolittle cows behind me. Then they're just leaving a trail of blood or emotionally saturated blood wherever I go, right? I'm completely aware of it. It's really hard to slay sacred cows.
Awful. It's
like I think I'm 6 feet tall, right?
I understand.
You know what I mean?
It's
Some
like this
people-
is it's an emotional pill.
Yeah, it's an emotional sacred cow. But in reality, I remember it was so funny because I'm dating my girlfriend and we're going to this party, and I have a lot of friends in the football team in high school.
Right.
And like I come up, my top of the head is below their shoulders.
Yeah.
I just remember being at this party in Cromwell, Connecticut, right? This little house in Cromwell, Connecticut. And I'm at this party and I'm holding this beer and I'm between these two guys whose shoulders are up here. And I'm like, I am just so not fit for this. I'm so unworthy of this company. I love them anyway, though.
Right. It's like that. It's, yeah. So it's like this. I'm going to talk about the sacred cow thing because it's interesting to me momentarily. The sacred cow is a belief structure that you are emotionally tethered to. there are emotional tethers because they're associated.
And
they're
a neural
associative.
and a neural cost of reorganization.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a neurological investment you've made.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. And it's got all these struts that support it that are justificationary, that a constellation around it, like a complex,
Mhm.
because it's psychological in its function.
Yep.
And that is the part that goes in this part that
Yeah,
we
but
call it
if you're getting social proof, right?
So you're getting social.
That's the whole point of social construction, is to create social proof of a falsehood so that you feel good about it, adhering to it.
That's correct. But that's it. There you have it. Now, that's what I'm calling the pretension.
What was I going to show you? Okay, I was going to cut over to our diamond.
Okay.
So, wait, sorry, I lost track of what we were doing there.
We were slaughtering sacred cows, talking about
Oh, yeah.
truth
Yeah,
and
so-
honest.
So that's why this is the hard discipline. It's 'cause
It's just
everything-
so awful. It's like, you know how, I will state for the audience, it's the hardest because it requires you to confront that which you pretend to be true. And you don't even know you're pretending to be true. You think it's true. You want it to be true. It feels right for it to be true. And you must slaughter that cow and put him in the locker. And it's just irritating and work.
What percentage of us are able to do that?
No.
I think that the thing is, if you teach people it at the beginning, you help them create the social proof that it's okay to believe in the truth, right? I mean, but if you do the opposite, you create the social proof that's okay to believe in the false.
Wait, what you do is here's how we do this, Kurt. This is awful. You're gonna love this because
It's awful. You're gonna love this. Great.
It's the kind of awful that you'll like. Because Kurt, here's what I'm speaking to the audience, but you're acting as my proxy to the audience, okay? And it goes
Okay.
like this, Kurt, if you want to stay a beta, it's okay. You can be a beta among the alphas if that's what you want to do, and you can't afford to make the investment in yourself to grow up and be an adult man in this world. It's
Yeah.
okay, because we'll just recognize, and we might even carve it on your forehead, beta, because damn, alphas get to do stuff like that. So rude. There you have it. You don't have to grow up, beta. You can stay a child and believe the things you wish to believe. Now I'm done. I'm off my little
I
box.
just think it's funny.
Yes, sir.
You gotta, there is some truth that there is a certain look to natural elites. They tend to be bigger, basically. I mean, because you need, but they're largely invisible, right? They've checked out of society because the credentialists the credentialists and basically the priesthood has the cathedral's priesthood. I don't mean that as Christian, I just mean as an analogy.
Yes.
The cathedral's priesthood has driven them out of government in favor of credentialism.
Yes.
Mythical credential, mythology, pseudoscience, and credentialism. But and the problem is there is also a prototype of the athlete,
Yes.
and that person is visible. And there's also a prototype of the Chad.
Okay.
That person is visible. I mean, they're guys. I love those guys. I used to have a friend when I was young, right, early 20s, and he was just God, he was just plowed through girls all the time, right? And this is back in the 80s when I don't think it was that At least in my opinion, it wasn't that common. Early 80s. And you know, he talked to the guy, and I just love the fucking guy. He was just adorable, right? I mean, he was competent, he was good at his work,
Right.
he was popular, he was good looking, he was fit, right? He was funny, he was entertaining, he could own a conversation, right?
Right.
It worked for me, actually. So I just love this guy. So those guys are great. The problem is that the people who you don't want a Chad in charge. You want to associate with a Chad. You don't want an athlete in charge. You want to be on his team.
Yes.
You don't want to you want a natural elite, right? But there's no reward for those people to be known.
No, it's
Right.
all it was the 20th century made it unfavorable.
Right.
Since 1885, it is just
Yeah, I mean-
unfavorable to be recognizable as an elite.
And then you have the credentialed, which people vary from, yeah, well, that's okay, to they're all lying, cheating scumbags,
Yes, sir.
right? And then there's what we call the invisibles, or the out of sights, which are the financial elite who screw everybody over because they're really in charge. So,
We call them criminals in some quadrants.
you know, I grew up thinking, well, those are my people.
I know.
You know,
No, it's like this, so
and I realized they're not my people.
no, they're actually against your people. They're what's
Well, a
interesting
lot of
about
my
this-
people defected. In other words, a lot of
Yes.
my people
Yes.
defected. And because what happened around the date you talked about was they were brought into the financial game franchise.
we call it
Whereas-
ascendant. I will call this the ascendant beta.
Well,
This
there's
actually really it represents the descent of civilization into an imperial frame from
Well, well, I don't know. Is it? I don't think
Ethical
it's an
frame.
imperial frame. I think it's a commercial frame. And so what we wanted, of course, was when the Bank of England needed to be the Bank of England, they needed to set the example of the state is the beneficiary of the organization it creates, and the state then redistributes the gains of the financial system to the people, just as in lieu of having to tax them directly. And so that was what should have happened. What didn't happen is we allowed the privatization of the banking structure, and that's what's happened. So the privatization of the financial sector. And as such, while the people pay for taxes, they're actually extracted from by the financial sector, and they're preyed upon. And then the financial sector develops hostile interests against the interests of the population, whereas the state wouldn't have. So, I mean, I agree with you what went wrong. But it happened because we didn't defend ourselves from them. So, I mean, I was like, who's at fault? The man in the mirror. Well, the man in the mirror may not be smart enough to figure it out. The difference is, once you're smart enough to figure it out, then you're responsible for doing something about it, or you're not a citizen in this.
we understand one another. I like that. We're doing something about it. That's nice.
So I got a little flack from somebody because one of the last videos, I forgot to share the screen.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, we're talking about stuff that you can't see because it was on that whiteboard.
Yeah.
And it's like, that flag.
Guess we're not going to do that again. Anyway, I apologize to the audience for doing that. It's not like we don't care.
It's not, no, we're learning.
We're just learning. All right. So can I switch back to our?
Of course, that you were going to show that diamond again.
Exactly.
That crazy diamond. Okay.
So this turned out to be pretty wow. Right?
It's what?
It turned out to be pretty wow.
But it kind of blows my mind a little bit still.
I'm trying to figure out how to draw a fat line.
What? So as I was saying before, I'm just the issue is that apex at the top is deflationary truth, material reality, and the apex at the bottom is inflationary, imaginary, and not real.
Yep.
Absolute lie. Oh, moral, very good. Equals, which is bottom should be not equal. That's the crisis at the bottom.
It's just energy.
Yes, sir.
It's so painful. So
Oh my. Okay. What? It's not painful.
well, I mean, it's just humorous. So anyway, so the point I was trying to make earlier is that this is a demand, right? And the supply is what gets filled in here, and that's it. And then there's just positive and negative ways of doing that. So I suppose what I wish a wish of myself is I would build these out as a bunch of supply demand diagrams and then just fold them in here and show how they all will fit in.
That'll be good.
Becomes one. And then you say, this is just the way you represent.
It's like, to me, it's stunning that, because it's like, we've been working for a year and change just with this. And I read your work 400 pages before that, and it boils down to this crazy diagram. And I'm like, that's just nuts. It's nuts. Because it's like, this is from the quantum base to the
Yep.
everything you can imagine a human being can think of.
Yep.
Operational, right? It represents an operational potential for human beings.
Causal. I don't know if we
Okay.
causal, because there's only that many axes. I mean, it's like, there's a discussion I was seeing yesterday where was they're so reluctant. We've spent so much time trying to prove equality that we've obscured the causality, which is that anything that matters, in other words, everything that's equal doesn't matter. and everything,
That's right. It's invisible.
it just
Not
doesn't,
significant.
it's not, there's no utility in it. I mean, it's just, that's what it is. But everything that's unequal does matter. And
Oh, that's interesting as a function. Really is. Because equality is entropic in its nature.
correct. I mean, so what? It doesn't, there's no opportunity. I mean, people are going to confuse what we just said as equality and reciprocity. Reciprocity produces an equality of interests, but it doesn't mean we're equally capable. It's like if I said we woke up tomorrow, had exactly the same skills, exactly
that will
the
be
same
useless.
knowledge, and all had the same amount of money, we'd starve to death because there's no advantage that anyone else is providing for us to communicate, to cooperate with.
Because you're right, no advantage to cooperation if we're all exactly the same.
The same. So what you want actually is, you want to cover that, can you see it? The upper triangle there? You want to cover the inside of that triangle as thoroughly as possible, which means you've exhausted every opportunity on the planet for cooperation. And
Right.
And so we're trying to cover the maximum amount of time and space.
In a cooperative fashion.
Right. And so the equality is actually collapse.
Right.
So
So this interesting. So there's the suggestion here is it's necessary to have a hierarchy, and
hierarchy, what do you mean?
there's going to be
A
different
meritocracy or a hierarchy?
competencies, right?
Yes.
Hierarchy of competency. And it's
Well,
it's like columns of them that are different in a competitive relationship, in a cooperative competition, right?
yes, exactly. But you know, we think of it as competing rather than calculating.
Yes.
It's calculating.
Right. We're demonstrating the proper calculating methodology in our column. We're trying to discover it, and we are doing it as rapidly as possible, right? But it's columnar because it's like there's other groups that are doing different things to figure out the answer that they think is correct, and we're all calculating in a competitive fashion to discover the right answer quickly, which is opposed to the parasiting action of the betas down below. Using their mind viruses.
Okay, so let's anticipate the enemy.
All right.
So I said, but so what? Why can't I? I mean, I can get away with this. People will let me. Why not? Well, I mean, so the difference between say that you need care, right? In order for you to behave, in order to not do harm, that's still a trade, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not that we should throw people to the wolves. It's that they can't make a case that they're due something without an exchange.
Right. No, you can't. There's no demonstrable debt because
Right.
you exist.
There's no debt other than one that's created by you, right? So the answer is that what mostly you want is the moral good productive people want the immoral bad unproductive people to behave. They want to, right? And they're willing, they would, right? That's all that's really happening.
So the betas are demanding payment. It's just barbarians demanding payment from the civilized people.
Exactly. That's all
And
going on. That's all it is. It's walking up and saying we're going to bring this town down.
Wait, this is good because it goes below amoral, the amoral line, right? Which is the horizontal line at the middle of the diamond. Below that is increasing inflation and the bullshit, which is justifying the demand. The debt for the debt that does not exist and cannot be demonstrated.
We need to add unethical, immoral, and evil on the bottom.
Well, evil is the basement, the bottom apex.
Yeah.
So we have amoral. What does the sequence go down to evil?
It's amoral, unethical, immoral, evil.
Right. And then ascending is just
It's-
true, goes up to the truth.
Well, it's amoral, ethical, moral, virtuous.
Okay.
It's virtuous when you Because when you're not expecting something back,
And you're being good.
you're being good, and it's evil when you're causing harm without benefit, your own benefit. Immoral, unethical and immoral, you're trying to benefit at the expense of others. Evil is when you're trying to do harm to others, even though you won't benefit from it.
At my expense, right?
So let me ask a question. Can I close this?
Yes. That was helpful to me, by the way. Thank you.
Where do we introduce this concept?
Which concept?
This.
Oh, I want to see this. I really would see this as a big fold out thing, you know, like in the middle of the book or something like that, as like a glossy diagram. You know what I mean? It's a map. It maps, all the things map onto that in some fashion.
What I want to see is how we've got it in the text.
Yeah.
Just see if I can find it, which we start out with the beginning,
Yes.
move all the way up to it. I want to, so it's like the head of every chapter, we show this, right? And then we end up with the end. And then we can use the symbol
Yes.
on the cover of the book.
That's
Right.
cool, man. But you know, it's like, okay. You're familiar, I'm gonna go back to alchemy again with apologies, especially to my friend in Texas. It goes like this. You've heard of the philosopher's stone?
You talking about Kenny?
Yeah. I love him. I love him. So it's like this. It's like the philosopher's stone is that which turns base metals into gold. And that is what we're doing here. Philosopher's stone is what it is. There's
Yeah,
a symbol for that.
I think we'll do that. I think that's how we'll build up
I like it.
the symbol from beginning to end. And that will create a picture. Yeah, see,
Resonance,
well,
right? It creates a resonance.
it creates a visual index for a concept that reinforces the way the way of disambiguating the world. I have a real underlying nausea about symbols.
I know.
So I'm a little nervous about it. I have to make sure to get it right, but the idea that you can represent the universe as
It's a diamond.
as two dimensions.
It would have, it can't do it any other way, man.
Just the grammars. So one of the things we'll do is we'll take the grammars and we'll reverse it from horizontal to vertical. That makes it fit on a web page. But we'll reverse it, and then we can parallel the male and female methods, right? Going down page. So just do the female on the left, the male on the right. We'll have all this feminine versus masculine. Interesting. Yeah.
I'm sending you a copy of this image, which is the philosopher's stone alchemical symbol, just for your reference.
Like to mess with me. Brad likes to tease me, you guys. He likes to call me.
I do enjoy it. I do. Anyway, I don't know. We've been going for almost 2.5 hours, probably.
It's time to go. Time to go get some lunch for me.
Okay. Wait.
We got real work done today. You're gonna send me the notes too, right?
Okay. Okay, I'll send you the note. The issue is this, they're on there, right?
I don't care, just send me.
You wanted me to take a picture of them? Or would you like me to type them up?
It'd be easier for me to understand if you type them up, but.
I figured that, and that's what I asked for.
Okay.
See, it's always a matter of trying to avoid work, right? So you-
I am,
your own business.
not gonna kick you that one. No, absolutely.
No, that'll work. All right, Kurt.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, comment, or whatever it is. Happy to make fun of us. That's okay.
That's okay.
I hope you got something out of this.
Right.
See you, and tomorrow we're on for tomorrow, right, Brad?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll try to be prepared. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.